Free at last. 3 Kenyans back in the country after a 22-month hostage ordeal.
There's nothing can harm when we sit down and we talk.
Nitashikana na viongozi wengine wa Jubilee, ma MCA wa Nairobi, ma MCA wote, jirani zetu wa Kajiado, Sabasaba pia sisi tutamobilize.
Countering Raila, a looming confrontation as Jubilee to hold a parallel Sabasaba rally. Sunday service interrupted in Kakamega over 2 bizarre murders. And is Kenya Prisons Reform Program on course?
KTN Weekend Prime with Yvonne Okwara.
Very good evening to you. It is the 8th day of June 2014, the start of yet another week. And we thank you so much for joining us on the program tonight. It is Sunday. That means we have our discussion checkpoint a little later on in this program. Today we are discussing the rhetoric within Jubilee. Court is called for national dialogue. But does Jubilee need dialogue to solve the issues that we're hearing coming up within itself? That is the discussion we will be having a little later on the program. Today, our guest, Professor Gitile Naituli. And we also have Alfred Kiter, who's the Member of Parliament for Nandi Hills, as well as Kabando Wakabanda, who's the Member of Parliament from Mukurweini. We'll be taking a look at all of that. Your feedback, always appreciated. Remember to use the hashtag checkpoint. You can also reach us on SMS. The number is 22155. Do stay with us for more on that later. But let's get to the top stories of the day tonight. For 2 months shy of 2 years, 3 Kenyan families went through an ordeal that defies description. Their family members had been taken hostage in one of the most violent countries on earth, Somalia. Today, though, that ordeal is over. The 3 aid workers, Janet Muthoni, Martin Mutisia and Abdinur Dabaso, were released by the kidnappers who claimed to be Somali pirates after extended negotiations. KTN's Sharon Momanyi now reports on the long-awaited reunion.
Overwhelming joy and emotions bubbling to the surface.
Thank you so much.
All expected and all witnessed as these 3 Kenyans held hostage in Somalia for 22 months got what they had craved every day: freedom. Janet, Martin and Abdi Nur, aid workers with the International Aid Services, were on the 11th of July 2012 ambushed and kidnapped near Galkayo in Puntland. Before long, negotiations for their release were underway.
It's a great day. I'm very happy to be here. I've been talking to these hostages for over a year now and promising that I'm going to bring them home.
With the assistance of the United Nations and the Galmudug government, the hostages were kept in a safe location until they were flown back to Nairobi.
I'm so ecstatic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, I have no words to explain my joy.
And when they got to Nairobi, a tearful reunion with those they had left behind. And those they hadn't.
It's a new baby.
The 3 were brought home together with 11 other hostages who were crew members of a cargo ship MV Albedo sailing from the United Arab Emirates to Kenya when it was taken by Somali pirates in November of 2010. The released hostages, though believed to be uninjured, are scheduled to undergo routine medical screenings. There are growing concerns about the increase of attacks on humanitarian workers, not only in Somalia but also in the broader region where humanitarian workers operate. Sharon Momanyi, KTN.
Now, for the better part of last week, politics revolved around the idea of a national dialogue conference and what would be up for discussion should this happen. Today, both CORD and Jubilee were out defending their party positions on the same. And as the clock winds down to CORD's anticipated Sabasaba rally, Nairobi Senator Mike Mbuvi Sonko says he intends to hold a parallel rally of his own on that day. Rita Tinina followed the unfolding politics and now reports.
The CORD rally in Tononoka will be the next venue for Raila Odinga to talk up the national dialogue debacle. And today, he defended one key talking point that President Uhuru Kenyatta says is off the table, the IEBC.
What we're talking about goes beyond individuals. We're talking about the electoral infrastructure, which is a much more comprehensive issue. And it is not right for somebody to say elections zimekwisha, wengine walishinda. That is history.
Raila, who was speaking after a Sunday service at the Ridgeways Baptist Church, says the issue of the country's electoral infrastructure cannot be dealt with by the National Assembly.
Parliament, people will only go and discuss in an adversarial manner, and then a vote is taken. But that is not a dialogue. A dialogue where people discuss until you reach an amicable solution.
We are not ready to take to Parliament serious issues affecting Kenyans like insecurity, devolution and corruption to a Parliament that has converted itself into a lecture hall of the majority leader. We go to Parliament, the majority leader lectures us there for 20-30 minutes, and that's the end of the day for Parliament. These are serious matters that require serious attention.
The IEBC, corruption and insecurity are among CORD's 5-point agenda for national dialogue. The coalition has in the meantime lined up what it terms as consultative rallies in different parts of the country. But Deputy President William Ruto, who was speaking in Siongiroi, Bomet County, dismissed CORD's political rallies strategy.
Hatuna shida na kuzungumza na watu. Bora wasituambie ati twende tuzungumze katika mkutano kule Kamukunji ya Sabasaba. Ati tutaenda kufanya maandamano. Ati tsunami inakuja. Hiyo barabara sisi hatuendi.
Na kama kuna mambo ya devolution iko na shida, mimi niko tayari kukutana na watu wa CORD kama chairman ya Devolved Government Committee kwa Senate.
Speaking during a fundraiser at the ACK Christ the King Church in Thogoto, some Jubilee leaders dismissed CORD's quest for national dialogue.
If you truly want dialogue, you do not have to take your dialogue to political rallies na mambo ya maandamano. Kuja bunge, leta miswada.
You cannot talk about IEBC kwa kiwanja ya Uhuru Park ama Tononoka. Leta mswada kwa National Assembly. Na kama wewe haukuchaguliwa, tuma mjumbe yako.
Nairobi Senator Mike Sonko, who was speaking in Kiserian, says he will organize a rally on the 7th of July, the same day CORD is planning a Sabasaba rally.
We also have the numbers. We also have the masses. We are also going to mobilize Kenyans, but to preach peace, love, and unity.
The talismanic date of the 7th of July is just under a month away. In that time, CORD will be expecting a call from the president to convene a national dialogue conference. A call which, at least for now, the president doesn't look like he's going to make. Rita Tinina, KTN.
Now, the budget estimates may already be out, but in just 4 days, the ritual of reading the estimates to the country will be the first time that many Kenyans will know what the Jubilee government intends to prioritize in the country's biggest budget yet. That's at 1.77 trillion shillings. Security will obviously be a big ticket item in this year's budget, but what else needs to be prioritized? And even more important, where will we get the money for this budget? KTN's Asha Mwilu pounded the pavement today to find out what some Kenyans believe should be top on the budgetary agenda.
It's that time of the year again when the Finance Cabinet Secretary will make his long drive to Parliament and push through the human wall of Kenyans anxious to know what the budget entails. On Thursday, Henry Rotich will lead Treasury in reading the anticipated 2014-2015 budget pegged at an all-high 1.77 trillion shillings. The government has already picked what's important for the next financial year, and these priority areas will guide how the national pie will be divided. But what have Kenyans listed as their priorities?
Na waangalie mambo ya watoto. Juu walituahidi wakati wa campaign watapewa watoto nini? Laptop. Hizo laptop hata wale hujaiona.
Na school fees walisema watoto watasoma bure. Saa hii watoto ndio natakikana pesa kwa shule sawa. Hata tumeshangaa kama parents tufanye namna gani?
Maisha ikuwe vile walikuwa wamesema, na tunaomba tena mambo ya security waweke ikuwe mzuri.
Serikali ilitudanganya tukiwapeleka waende mbele. Watatuwekea vitu irudi chini, maziwa irudi chini, unga irudi chini, na saa hizi unga inakuwa juu, maziwa juu, transport juu. Sasa serikali inatupeleka wapi?
Apart from having to justify the 1.77 trillion budget, Treasury is expected to have a hard time explaining to Kenyans where exactly this money will come from. And financial experts predict that Kenyans will be forced to bear the burden.
1.9 trillion. The chances that we're going to spend 1.8, 1.9 are pretty low. We have never spent what we budgeted to spend. You will always see that money comes back into the central coffer of unused budget allocation.
We will see inflation increasing for that particular matter. The Kenyans will continue, enjoying very high expenses, if we can use that particular term. Whatever you buy will be more expensive by 2%. So it is going to be very expensive for Kenyans.
Commodity prices have been going up every other day, and I don't expect it to be any better after the reading of this budget.
I would rather not have the taxes going up. I would rather have the budget that we have always had.
Kabla wajasoma budget, wa review ile budget ya last year, ili wananchi wajue kama zile vitu zenye waliweka kwa ile budget ile iliyopita walifanya au wakufanya.
As this first financial year under President Uhuru Kenyatta's rule comes to an end, it's no doubt that Kenyans have more expectations from the young government this coming year. At the end of it, how the government addresses Kenyans' priorities will be the base of their judgment. Asha Mwilu, KTN, Nairobi.
Let's move on now to the tale of two murders that caused the near burning of the Winners Chapel Church building in Kakamega town today. The badly mutilated body of a 13-year-old girl who had been reported missing yesterday was found near the church compound, sparking violent protests. This killing follows the murder of a young girl in similar circumstances, with residents now pointing fingers at the church, claiming that some of its members may have perpetrated the murders as part of a dark ritual sacrifice. Our correspondent Francis Ontomwa now reports on the drama that engulfed Kakamega.
Angry residents in Kakamega town venting out their frustrations. These were the scenes today when things fell apart. No more church service at Winners Chapel Ministries was disrupted over mysterious death of a teenager. Worshippers caught in the stalemate evacuating children and property for safety. The mutilated body of the 13-year-old Deborah Achieng was found near the church's vicinity, with body parts stashed in different directions, and this sparked the storm.
Na kuanzia saa moja mpaka saa moja unusu shemeji akasema mtoto arudi, ako wapi? Sasa kuanzia hiyo saa moja akaenda kwa duka penye amemtuma hakumpata. Akafikiria kwamba ameenda mama watoto supermarket kumchukua kuangalia huko. Lakini tena akatumanisha mtu akasema huko mtoto hayuko.
Business in the town came to a standstill as irate residents bayed for the blood of church officials over accusation of cultism. The church crowd set on fire a section of the church, but firefighters moved in swiftly.
We heard some screams here and there from outside the compound. Suddenly we heard some stones were thrown at us inside the church.
Residents at a nearby estate claim this is the second similar incident in a month, and the chopping of the body of the class 7 pupil of Nabongo Primary School points to cult practices. But as investigators move to find the connection between the brutal murder and the location of incidents, the church has distanced itself from the happening and claimed that this was a deliberate scheme to tarnish the name of the church.
We worship the true God. Those allegations about devil worship, we don't know about them.
During the mayhem, a bishop's vehicle was vandalized and property of unknown value destroyed at the church's premises. What exactly could have happened to Deborah Achieng? The brutal murder raises several serious questions. Francis Ontomwa, KTN, at the Winners Chapels Ministries, Kakamega.
Now, at 35, she is in, believe it or not, class 2. But being the oldest in class is the least of her worries. Mother of 7, Shangayo Lolpuranai in Isiolo County, is in school to get what she was denied as a young girl: education. Mercy Kandia reports.
In the remote, dry area of Kipsing, Isiolo County, a mother of 7 is striving to quench a different kind of thirst.
How are you?
For ages, girls in Kipsing village have always been viewed as property. Their fathers marry them off at an early age. But when that happened to 34-year-old mother of 7, she defied all odds, went back to school to quench her thirst for education. Lack of classrooms, desks, water and chairs to sit on has been a challenge for most schools within the county.
Na amekuwa mwanafunzi mzuri sana na nimefurahi sana kama mwalimu wake kwa sababu siku hizi amejua kusoma na anafanya hata hesabu vizuri. And now is our
Amid the seen and the unseen challenges, Shangayo Lolpuranai is in class 2 at Lengwenyi Primary School, finally doing what she wanted, denied in her early age when her father married her off in exchange of livestock.
Anasoma musea ta mama anasoma wake karibuni shule amu maendeleo mzuri.
What she was denied, now she gives to her 6 children in the hope that they attain their dream.
Nafurahi sana kumwona mamangu akiwa shule kwa sababu sisi hatuna baba na sisi tunateseka sana. Sasa hata yeye ameamua kusoma ili apate hata kujua kuongea Kiswahili na kuandika.
Veronica Sakinoi, Shangayo's first daughter, is in class 8 at the same school, supporting their mother, especially when it comes to schoolwork. Being the oldest in class is no bother. She knows what she wants. Being the oldest in class is no bother. She knows what she wants. Every school day is a day living her dream. Mercy Kandia, KTN, Isiolo County.
Right, some good news there, but we move on to some more grim news tonight. An administration police officer in Kisii town last night stabbed his wife to death, then committed suicide by shooting himself following a domestic quarrel. Friends of the young couple say that the pair, who had been married for 2 years, fell out 2 weeks ago, forcing the woman to leave her husband. Yesterday, the man went and convinced his wife to return to their house at the AP lines, only to murder her hours later. Neighbors say they heard quarrels and later gunfire before they alerted the police. Kisii AP Commandant James Akoru confirmed the incident.
AP wengi sana wanatumia silaha kwa sababu nenda ingawa hii situation inampata wakati akiwa na hiyo silaha, na wengine nenda ingawa wawezi kustamili stress, hawezi kujimanage akiwa ama kucope na stress yake. So unapata these officers, they are still young in service. Most of them ni wale wameanza sasa mambo ya familia.
They've been married for 2.5 years. So for the last 3 weeks walikuwa wamekosana, Harriet akatoka kaenda nyumbani. Then jana jamaa akakuja kupembeleza. He's been coming kupembeleza, but jana ni kama alimuini. Then wakakuja naye kumbe he had plans ya kuja kumua.
In a bid to decongest prisons in the country, the government has made the construction of 7 more prisons part of the National Security Plan. As KTN's Joy Dorin-Bira reports, the plan could finally be the long-awaited rescue for the Prisons Department, which is groaning under the load of 30,000 more prisoners than Kenya had planned for.
Kenya's constitution states that every inmate in any prison across the country is entitled to, among other things, food, health, visitation, and most importantly, spacious accommodation.
These are some of the prisoners serving their sentences at Kamiti Prison, one of the 109 penal institutions across the country.
Ilikuwa tunafanya personating na tukaandikiwa kama robbery na askari, akatuandikia kesi mingi, tukanyongwa na kesi mbili. Niko na accused wengine 3, kanyongwa na kesi mbili, ndio sasa imetuweka hapa mimi kudem.
Hii jela iko na almost 2000 wafungwa, na baadhi ya wafungwa wengi ni wagonjwa, unaona.
These inmates with varying offences are part of the 55,000 prisoners serving their terms in prisons across the country. The prisons are almost literally bursting from the overload.
The 109 penal institutions hold, as at today, 55,000 inmates, together with 346 children who are accompanying their mothers. Granted, our institutions are overcrowded. The official carrying capacity in our institutions should be 23,000.
These are bold measures to fight terror.
As part of the 4-year National Security Plan, the government has announced that 2 billion shillings has been allocated for the construction of 12 new prisons. Some of the existing ones are already being expanded.
We have Rachwenyo, we have Vihiga, we have Mari Manti, we have Nyamira, to mention just but a few.
The prisons reform program has progressed slowly and quietly behind the scenes, but crime and criminals are moving faster. The challenges dogging the service are not only to do with space, but also technology.
So the construction of these 6 institutions under the flagship project arrangements is clearly aimed at taking services closer to the members, to members of the public, and equally reducing the cost of operation.
Kenya Prison Service has devoted time to rehabilitating some of the prisoners by empowering them with spiritual nourishment, healthcare-related education, and entrepreneurship. But the authorities here maintain that building new prisons and expanding the current ones will reduce pressure of congestion and improve the standards. Joy Dorin-Bira, KTN, Nairobi.
Children living with disabilities face a myriad of challenges, and often their caregivers have to go an extra mile to ensure that the children are as comfortable as they can be. A group of women in Kamakwa area of Nyeri are constructing simple chairs out of cartons and old newspapers that will improve the posture of children with various kinds of disabilities. Carol Derry reports.
Unusual seats, deceptively simple in their look. These are extraordinary seats that have proven to be invaluable to children living with disabilities. Those who have made it tell us that the seat is designed to be in sync with the child's posture, and it assists in giving not only some comfort to the child, but also helps in the physical alignment of the body. This project is at the Metropolitan Sanctuary in Kamakwa, managed by Jolene Allen from Ireland.
We noticed that when we did home visits with many disabled in Nyeri and in surrounding villages, a lot of the children were lying indoors on mattresses, not being supported in a good position. Sitting upright is very, very important for disabled children. Sitting upright keeps you in a good position. The posture is good, it minimises deformity, and it also enhances feeding, swallowing, digestion.
From easy to find cheap materials such as old newspapers, cartons and glue made from wheat flour and water, one can construct this simple seat for a child with a physical disability. Some of the seats are made with slings or straps, while others come with stands to support those who cannot sit.
When they stay in beds, they are confined in beds and not able to interact with other people. They may develop deformities, which the chairs are used to actually correct.
The center also provides physiotherapy services to the children for free. Some of the mothers of these children are hired to help in the construction of all the seats, thereby giving them an income to feed and clothe their children. 7 mothers are already working here.
Na kuaga naweza hata kumununulia chakula, kumbalisha vizuri, kumweka vizuri. Nilikuwa nateseka nikiashia mtu ananiambia kesho usiniashie Diana kwa sababu huwa anaenda awezi akafumilia pahali pamoja. Kwanza kwa daycare nikimpeleka naambiwa usimlete kesho.
He has cerebral palsy. He couldn't sit. He couldn't stand.
The seats are given out freely to those in need, and Jolene says she's ready to assist anyone interested in learning how to make the seats. For those who are far, she says she can interact with them through Skype.
We're so excited and blessed that we have now made over 450 items, both chairs and standing frames on site here. And we give each and every one of those out completely free of charge for the disabled who come.
As you can see, a lot of consideration has been put in the construction of these special seats, as a child with disabilities can sit with the right posture and while at it, interact with other members of the family. Carol Derry for KTN in Kamakwa.
Right, some good news coming from Nyeri. Carol Derry, thank you very much for that report. We want to take a short break right now on KTN Weekend Prime. Coming up, Checkpoint, we'll be looking for your feedback. Remember to use the hashtag Checkpoint on Twitter. On SMS, the number is 22155. Don't go too far. That's coming up next. Just ahead on Checkpoint, Jubilee government. Is it... Welcome back. You're watching Checkpoint, and tonight we're going to be talking about the rhetoric that we're hearing coming from within Jubilee ranks. And tonight, to discuss that, remember, we're also looking for your feedback, by the way, on Twitter. Hashtag Checkpoint. 22155 is the SMS number. Let me introduce you to who we have here tonight. On my extreme left, which would be you, the viewers, right, is Honorable Alfred Kitero, who's a Member of Parliament for Nandi Hills. And we have Professor Gitile Naituli, who's a public policy analyst, and Kabando Wakabando, MP for Mukurweini. Tonight discussing just what is going on within Jubilee. We're hearing a lot of rhetoric in the past few weeks. Let's start with you, Bwana Kitero. In your opinion, what is wrong within Jubilee?
There are many issues that I think they are coming up at the moment. For the last 1 year and 2 months that we have been after forming government, of course we must have faced a lot of challenges. But I think it is a question of how we look into trying to give solutions of facing the challenges that is putting us into what we are facing at the moment.
Because you have talked about the Jubilee government being, or rather the president and his deputy being arrogant, being out of touch. You even made the analogy of him going up the tree to look for honey, but never bringing it down to the people. Do you believe the two leaders have lost touch with the people?
Those are sentiments that are coming from the grassroots, that we get from the public, that they are complaining. You know, 1 year down the line, most of the promises that we made, we have not achieved most of them.
Very quickly, what are those promises? Because it seems like there are problems within Jubilee about the power sharing arrangement.
We had many issues like youth employment, we had poverty eradication, You see now security issues, the laptop projects, and the infrastructure that we say is our number one agenda when we form government. So it is a question of most fulfilling our promises. We made a lot of promises while we were campaigning. It is a challenge to most of us as leadership, and I think we should embrace more of we should come together as leadership, and we address in a manner that is going to provide solutions and not to create more.
And you don't believe that that is happening right now, do you?
It is not happening anymore.
Kabando, is he going about it the right way?
You see, this is 1 year on, and when you take a child to school in kindergarten, you have expectations that they will do an examination for the unit, thereafter from class 1 to class 8. You cannot give an examination, KCPE, at class 4, the mid-term. We are not even mid-term, because the full term is 5 years. We have barely done 1 year. You cannot examine a high school student KCSE while in Form 1, because the full term is 4 years. We know that there are dynamics and challenges within any administration, and we expect that we'll have the objectivity as legislators individually to correct that which is wrong. However, I disagree wholly with individuals who seem to obsess themselves with the daily criticism of the reigning and ruling Jubilee administration. What we need to also remember is that when you are contesting a seat, you have a manifesto for your constituency. The governors met the president recently, the Governors Council, led by their chairman. And from the meeting, from that summit, they said, barely a week ago, they said, we are satisfied with the discussions. We have addressed issues of the roads and issues of rural electrification. Barely 48 hours later, the chairman of the Governors Council was again in news, saying that he can only give Jubilee administration C-. And I ask myself, and many people asking, if you are governor of a county, which is receiving 42% of the ordinary revenue, more than nearly 3 times of what we are constitutionally obliged as the executive and the national government to give to the counties. The questions that should daily occupy you is what you are doing with your money.
Okay.
As a member of parliament, the question that should preoccupy you daily, of course, is your constituency. What manifesto did you give your constituency?
Right.
And secondly, your audit in 1 year later.
I'd like to bring him in
Yes.
now. We rarely hear you speak about what's happening within your constituency. In fact, some would say you're no different from the others because you complain when it is persons from the Kalenjin community who've been left out of governance, and therefore that makes you a politician like any other, only speaking about what's affecting your community and not actually about what's happening in the constituency.
I've talked of many issues, and some national, some regional, some at the constituency level. It is important to note that some of us, we ran on a platform of change. As young people, most Kenyans are watching, and they expect a lot from us. Because 51 years down the line, there is no change. We've been having business as usual.
All right. Allow me to interject. You're talking about a lot of development issues within the country. However, a lot of what we've heard you speaking about is discontent within the Jubilee coalition itself, about who didn't get what positions, about how it is not fair. And I'd like to bring in Professor Gitile Naituli now for a moment. When you hear all that rhetoric that comes out of Jubilee itself, what are your thoughts on that?
What I see is what is wrong with the entire country. They say a government is an innocent mirror of the people that put it to power, that elect him. So there is total lack of coherence in this government. I don't expect to hear Mheshimiwa Gitile complain about the government to me. I expect him to call the president or to call Ruto, because he's in that government, and then he sort out whatever it is before it becomes a public issue.
Keter, have you tried that avenue?
We have really tried, not just me. There are many members who are complaining. You remember when we had our PG State House, some issues were raised. Unfortunately, I could not make it to be there, but there are many issues and many members who are complaining about governance. I think it is there. We have over 200 members in Jubilee, and for all of us to engage the president, it is almost impossible. Like in a period of 4 months, 3 months, you rarely can have an opportunity to see the president. What is important?
What about his deputy?
What is important is both of them. It is almost, but they have relied on the people who are a clique of a few members.
So what I mean here, Yvonne, is not that really Keter engages the president or his deputy. I would expect a mechanism within government where issues can be addressed. They don't have directly to go to the president. But the point is that we need to raise the consciousness in this country. It is too low. There's too much incoherence. I mean, you just saw through the news here, there's all these issues of Mandra, very unexplained one and so on. The point is this country is actually collapsing in terms of cohesiveness. And therefore, when Keter talks or any other person, you can't dismiss that easily. You need to ask first, why are those things becoming public? Why what he is saying has to come to an innocent voter like me or any other voter in this country?
No. I think, and I believe, not thinking, that we must embrace some positive spirit, those who have not. This country has not been the same, like my colleague says here. I think it's not true. You cannot tell Kenyans that 2003 was the same as 2001. In 2003, we had the introduction of the free primary education, and millions of children trooped to classrooms because of the NAC administration then. Now we have the free tuition for secondary schools. It will be very strange in any part of the country to find students who have qualified study date not joining the nearest day secondary school. In the Jubilee administration, the airport is almost completing here.
Okay.
One of the let me finish this. The hugest, we are going to be handling nearly 20 million arrivals here at the Jomo Kenyatta Airport. It's the hugest airport infrastructure project in the whole continent.
All right, allow me to interject.
What about free maternity?
Yes, those are the successes of the Jubilee government. However, I'd like you to address the issues of the internal mechanisms about solving the politics within the coalition itself, because this is not necessarily about the track record, but it's about what's happening within.
Let me come to that. I come to that fully aware that the successes have not been amplified, have not been spoken so loudly, and we Kenyans want to be obsessed with the negatives. Now, internally in Jubilee, I will not fault Alfred completely, because in an administration, in a school, in a media house, there will be a lapse today and tomorrow because of certain personnel management systems. However, I know not of any member of parliament who has sought to see the deputy president or the president. We all understand from the National Assembly that whoever wants to see, and you can check this with the other members, even CORD members, the CORD coalition. For instance, if you want to see the deputy president, William Samoei Ruto, you'll see him in less than 1 hour.
Is that true?
No, let me finish. I'm explaining this. It's a fact. And you can check not with Alfred Keter. Check with other members of parliament, even from the opposition side, that if you send a text message from here to the deputy president, he will respond within half an hour. And let me tell you, if he is in a cabinet meeting and he cannot access his phone for reasons of occupation, William Ruto will respond to you. Can I also tell you about the president? We have an understanding of whom to contact. And we know Uhuru Kenyatta is a very easy man. There's something that is being exaggerated by some people. The easiest duo is a dynamic duo of Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto.
Okay, I'd like Keter to respond to that.
I really want to.
Let me explain this. Without an appointment, yesterday, nearly 10 members of parliament, each, when we met in a rally that was not meant for politics, in a wedding in Meru, had an opportunity to tell the president something or another. Tomorrow, I'm sure if KTN decides, this man seated here, to see Uhuru Kenyatta, within the week, you'll see him.
Yeah, what is important, I agree with my brother, Kabando, and my friend Kabando. And
thank you.
It is not just about meeting and discussing issues. What really matters is how they take your decisions.
Also, you have met?
We normally meet. You raise something, but you see them do exactly the opposite. So you don't know what is happening in between.
And so you
they
choose
seem to believe in some others, and they don't believe in some
So
other
you are
people.
here now saying that you have met the deputy president and the president, and you've expressed your concerns to them, but just not listening to you?
They are not listening.
All right. So it's not a matter of accessibility.
It
then,
is not about accessibility.
They are very accessible.
What is important is to really listen to you and work on the issues that you're raising, try to provide solutions. It's about listening.
You know.
And so, just allow me before we carry on. And so, the purpose of then going out, like Professor is saying, to the innocent voter who perhaps may not have been party to some of the agreements that you're talking about within the Jubilee coalition, do you think that has had an effect? Do you think that has changed? Are they listening to you?
Sometimes they listen. When you know politicians, you have to engage them in a political manner sometimes.
Professor, when we see all of this happening, do you think this affects service delivery in any way? Do you think this affects governance in any way when the Jubilee coalition itself, forget about what CORD is asking for a national dialogue, but do you think dialogue is needed within Jubilee?
I think it is needed within Jubilee because it does give a picture of a non-cohesive body. Now, it may not affect the service. The service may continue because there are people working on projects, but the perception, it creates a perception of a government that is rudderless, that the leadership is not cohesive, that it's not able to carry, it's not able to provide a vision, and then it carry the constituents with it in that vision. That's why some move out and then go and complain in public. That picture is not good for governance.
Can I explain that? I think because you also want to understand and accommodate, I don't agree with those who dismiss Alfred Keter 100%. Some, of course, border on disrespect. You cannot go for reasons to Nadi County and start attacking him on his person. You criticize him on the issues at hand. And we serve in the same committee in Parliament. We are in both committees of agriculture and delegated legislation. And I can tell you, he's a very active member of Parliament. However, when we speak, I also tell him, he's a young, idealistic person who is genuinely concerned about the plight of his people. But we must be careful as we execute our responsibilities not to damage the same house that you're supposed to build. Yesterday, the newspapers had carried a story of my personal criticism of some tendering process within government. It is a legitimate position of any member of parliament to criticize the executive and even to criticize parliament itself and even to do a self-critique. However, what we should be very concerned about is that our criticism, for instance, the criticism I made, I also spoke to the Interior Secretary, Cabinet, and also the PS about it, and I'm sure the President heard about it. We should be careful not to be seen like we want Uhuru Kenyatta presidency to fall.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that?
We should be careful.
Is that what you think?
I support him. What is important is to have positive criticism. You criticize when necessary, you support when necessary, and that is what I've been doing before. I raised some concern about the railway tendering process, which was not followed. When Rugut issue came on board, it was not just because it comes from my county, Nandi, but there were issues of concern. This is someone, on a Friday, he was Director General of NYS. On a Saturday, he received an SMS that he should quit being Director General. By Sunday, Kidinji was already acting.
Can I come to that, please?
And he was sworn in 2 days later on a Tuesday. I want Kabano to give me time.
Okay.
So that
yes, okay, sir.
When we raise these issues, it is not that we don't love our coalition Jubilee. We want to see it working. Jubilee belongs to all Kenyans. And I've seen the debate over national dialogue. People are missing the point. The president is the president of all Kenyans. Whether you are coming from which part of this country, whether you belong to a different religion, whether you belong to a different party, is a president for all of us. And as where we are at the moment trying to address the issue of unity, of cohesion, and there is no way out. We have to sit together as leadership of this country.
Do you think there should be national dialogue?
There should be national dialogue. It is important.
All right, here's another.
Yvonne, I think I would like to say something very quickly of what you said about this, the issue raised on, especially on Rugut. You know, I've thought about that issue, and I can't see where it is. We have really, in this country, we have completely lost in direction here. We see government service, public service, as a service to self, not to the public. Now, this man was transferred, he was not fired. That's what I understand. But you see, to the person who is transferring, and the one who is resisting transfer, these people are looking at that position in terms of what can it give to us through Rugut.
I want to interject.
To both. Just a minute. And this is where the issue of corruption becomes such a terrible damage to this country. Because nobody should worry that somebody has been transferred, otherwise you will paralyze the government. If somebody cannot be transferred from one position to another, you will paralyze the state. But why is it an issue?
All right.
Why is it an issue?
Very quickly, Keter, we'll come back to you, Kabando, in just a moment. I'd just like to respond to that.
My brother, he told me in college, Mwalimu, there is an issue that you really need to note.
Yeah.
That Rugut issue was not a transfer. It became a transfer after the political temperatures were raised.
Yeah.
Then it was changed. It was a sacking. You know, we were told many stories, and I want Kabando to listen to this.
No. Before you proceed,
we were told
this is a national television. It's a national television.
Now I understand.
KTN is a premier, pioneering, independent television station in this country. We cannot use it to propagate lies. There isn't any documentary evidence. And by the way, we are treading very dangerously where we purported to protect our own. I know I criticize that position myself, and the only issues we asked with my colleagues were, did we follow the process and the procedures as given in the parliamentary standing orders?
You should have allowed me to finish.
No, you can take this matter even a million hours. Let me tell you, Alfred Keter, my friend, you may think you are doing very good to your constituents, a man that we know very well because I've stayed with him more than you. In Nyeri County as my provincial commissioner, a very humble and moderate person, very good professional. But the more you have, he was from Mukroini. I'll be careful not to be seen.
Have you not used very strong language?
No, let me if he was from Mukroini, because you know we are word merchants and you are politicians. The politics you say from my township, Kehongo, it will be broadcast to the whole globe now through YouTube. Madam Yvonne, you see, Alfred Keter and his allies on this matter have not told us that there's a complainant. The said gentleman has not made any formal complaint, and there's a complaint that you can make as a public servant through the Public Service Commission.
Okay.
Let me finish this, because it's a propaganda and it's a lie. You have not done that.
You are taking too much
time. Why was it removed?
There is.
Taking too much time.
No, it's not your time. It's KTN time. Now, there was no complaint in High Court or any jurisdiction whatsoever. When you start citing SMSs that were given, have you seen the SMS from the cabinet secretary or from? And that matter, I can assure you.
Yes, and we do need Keter to come
the matter is lapsing. I know we are very interested in.
Kabando, there is a question that I want to put it to you straight.
Which one?
We were told immediately after we complained about the Rugut issue. On a Tuesday, CS Waiguru went on national TV saying that we are trying to do restructuring. We wanted to have people on board who can move forward and National Youth Service, which means the person that was there was not promoted. Because if you removed him on the basis of incompetence, on the basis of he could not perform, then how then are you promoting him to
For
a
that,
different sector?
should she be impeached, you have been put on record as saying you can take that to the bank. Tonight we're hearing that Mithika Linturi may actually withdraw this impeachment motion. Should she be impeached?
If he does that, there are many members of parliament who are willing to start again.
And you're willing to follow that?
And we'll follow that.
All right.
Because we want to restrict our engagements into law. We want
What is the problem with Waiguru? According to you, what is the problem with Waiguru?
But why are you not giving me a chance to finish my sentence? Because you appear to be interested very much on the secessions that are coming from Qatar. Let me tell you, there isn't any SMS message that was sent to anybody. And we challenge anybody, including my friend here, to table any documentary evidence.
Can you prove that there was no evidence?
No, he's the one who is saying it. The honors, the burden of proof is on your side. Go to Rugut, tell him to publish it. Go to Igoro, Madam Anne, tell her to give you. When you start misusing other people's name because they come from certain villages that you know, you are damaging their career. And let me tell you, and they take this to the bank, the letter of transfer was actually a promotion. Secondly, restructuring of government can include shifting one cabinet secretary from one ministry to another ministry. This is restructuring.
We're running out of time, and I really need to conclude our conversation.
Excuse.
Yes.
Can Alfred also tell us, because the president has spoken, and the deputy president has spoken, and they are the leaders of Jubilee, whom does he speak for?
Who do you speak for? There have been allegations that you are being funded by some people.
Yeah, well, let me. I have a national platform as a member of parliament. I represent the people of Kenya. On the railway issue, I represented them. On this issue, on the Rugut issue, I will represent them.
Here's another allegation that's coming up, that you are indeed actually, in fact, being funded by the deputy president because he himself is unhappy within the Jubilee coalition. Is that true?
No, I speak my mind. Myself and Kabana knows, and my teacher. It is good that we are seated together with people we've worked for a very long time.
All right, and in that case, tell us, should the deputy president run in 2017? You seem to believe so. Why?
Those are some of the issues that we will approach and discuss when the right time.
But you have been saying it, and you have said it at public rallies, that you think he should run because he's been shortchanged.
It is not about shortchanging. It is a question of, I believe he was compromised. He does not reason the way he used to reason when we formed this coalition. He believed in a 50-50 URP, TNA, Jubilee coalition. But at the moment he talks about one government, it has a background of 50-50 to be one. And it is important to know that.
What is 50-50? You know, people are wondering, when you talk about 50-50, it includes what? Ateso is part of the 50.
Yeah, all of
Agiku is a part of the 50. Agriama is part of the 50. We should not...
Both of them.
We should not...
Both parties are national parties. What Kabana should know.
We should not... Let me finish my sentence. Keter, you know I advise you as my personal friend.
But you have to request me to advise me.
Okay. Okay, go on.
Carry on.
Carry on.
I want to inform you that the two parties are national parties. URP and TNA are national parties. So the issue of whether you have a Giriama or a Teso in each party is a non-issue. All parties are all Kenyans.
I want to correct you on that one. A national party represents the face of Kenya. TNA, URP, UDF, Newford Kenya, who are part of the coalition, the independent, including Newlewed Gatofu and our friend Sherut. They are part of the Jubilee coalition.
Gentlemen, we need to move our discussion forward because we have completely run out of time. And I'd like, Professor, for you to give us your closing remarks. Take a look at what's happening here and about the arguments that are taking place and what the way forward should be. Is this worrying for the ordinary voter who put them in place?
I think it shouldn't worry the ordinary voter. But also, having said that, I want to say that people should be very happy that they have somebody like Mheshimiwa Giteria Kabando, and that they can speak their mind. Because without somebody challenging what is happening, then there is no knowledge developed, and the government will not correct itself. They act as a mirror to the state. But also, I think cohesiveness is required in government. And I think that is up to the leadership to establish necessary structures that create coherence, because there has been a lot of mispronouncements and the countermanding of from the president to the deputy president and so on. That need to stop. The deputy president cannot say yes and then the following day the president says no, or vice versa. That should not happen in government, especially at that top level. And also on very critical issues, I believe the president should either be the last to speak or not speak at all.
All right. Keter, let's have you. Final comments?
Yeah, I think it is important for all leaders to really address issues that affect Kenyans. And I want the leadership of this country to really focus on those issues which directly affect the common man. You see, at the moment, we have insecurity issues, we have food problems, we have the roads are in pathetic conditions, nothing is moving. Economy is on daily basis is going down, interest rates are rising every second.
All right. What happens if you don't get your way eventually within Jubilee? Will you move to court?
We will always get away. You know,
so far you haven't been successful. You've said it yourself.
I have succeeded because when I raised matters of the railway, I took it to a parliamentary, as a parliamentary issue. It was brought, a motion was brought by a different member of parliament. But at the moment, we are facing many challenges within the same the railway issue. And our committee sat down. There is a report which was tabled in Parliament, and it will improve our ways of engaging with our partners, international partners, to come up with solutions.
Very quickly, yesterday, Senator Kipchumba Murkomen said that you were meeting with Raila, and he said this was
not meeting. I
he
think he's busy, and I have said he should really focus on the problem with most senators, instead of focusing on their county government.
So you were not meeting
where they want to defend and protect. I was attending a funeral in Kisumu, and I came back to Nandi, went to Ravine, and went to Kericho for my. I didn't meet the former Prime Minister.
Okay. But what would be wrong if you met him? Why is that wrong?
In less than a minute, as the professor says, it might not be wrong. In less than a minute, you're concluding.
2 minutes like him.
In less than a minute, please.
Honestly,
we've run out of time.
Okay, we have milestones. The water plants are being done. The maternities are being accessed. We have the airport that is being completed. Security is a global issue, and domestically we are together united. We must be careful of two issues. One, not to fall into a trap of the people who are idle, those code guys who don't have any job and they want to expend all the time they have with the necessary troops and rallies just to antagonize and start inciting.
As to the cohesiveness within Jubilee, I'd like you to address that.
It is. We in Jubilee must be careful not to fall into a trap of Raila Odinga and his colleagues who don't have any work to do. And secondly, we must be accepting that we are already in dialogue. If Keter is raising issues, for instance, I complained about school fees certificates held. Now there is a bill awaiting passage for social and financial audit. We talk about the interest rate. I sponsored a bill on the central bank.
I'm sorry, I have to leave it at that for now. We really are out of time.
So the point is, Jubilee fights and disagreements are not part of the mess and the satanic activities of the court.
We leave it at that for now. Calling them satanic activities might be a little too harsh and a little too strong. Yes, right here on Checkpoint. I thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us in our discussion tonight. We're taking a short break, still waiting for your feedback and still looking through it. We'll sample it towards the end of this bulletin, #Checkpoint. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Now, trust Kenya's politics to revolve around talking. But not just talking. Everyone, including the president, has been talking about talking. Talk about exhausting. But as tongues wagged this week, our in-house skeptic Wilson Buru also found some cute political moments fit for a Sweet 16 novel. Get ready to be briefed. Here is this week's edition of Mock the Week.
The 23rd week of the year, a week in which Kenya celebrated having a government for Kenyans and run by Kenyans for the 51st year.
We've only had
A proud moment for a good number, but for the rest of us, a time to sit in the scorching sun and wonder whether supper would be affordable that night.
The national dialogue.
It was a week where we talked about talking and the conditions under which that talk would be talked. Talking of which,
na sikuwa nikitaka kusema haya lakini wacha tu niseme.
Then his family, not that one, the other family, came and, as one would say in Kiswahili, talked differently.
The national dialogue will be done within the institutions that are created by the Constitution.
But first, let's talk about love.
Talk about love. Talk about trust.
1 year and some change on, these two who are still very much in love sitting together and cracking jokes. Many jokes. But it would seem that somebody somewhere did not like this trend. So, on this day, that person decided that the two would sit miles apart and in fact placed the First Lady Margaret Kenyatta between them. At this point, it is important to note that the Bible states in Mark chapter 10 verse 9, "What God has joined, let no man tear asunder." And clearly, God did bring together our two friends here, and regardless of the distance, they found a way to make it work. Our investigative team did try to find out what was written on that note, and after scavenging through the head of state's coat pockets, they managed to find the said communique, which basically turned the First Lady into a post office. I'll go ahead and read what is written on that particular note, which I have in my hands here, and it reads, "Boss ni kunoma, njaa nayo na speech yako bado." We'll of course be talking to our experts to explain to us how this particular information affects the prices of fuel and the cost of living. Moving on, it has now been certified that we indeed love our president. In fact, we love him so much, we bought him this. Yes, a bulletproof, bomb-proof, death-proof, Al-Qaeda-proof, Al-Shabaab-proof monstrosity. It's ugly, but you really want to be in there in case one of those grenades goes off.
Kila siku bomb Kikomba, bomb Mombasa, bomb Likoni, bomb everywhere.
Let me explain something here. A few weeks ago, 3 explosions rocked the country within 24 hours, 1 in Mombasa and 2 in buses on the Thika Superhighway, and the Deputy President went on record to say this.
The government has done its best and will not relent until the country is safe.
And what better way to show that the best is being done to protect Kenyans than to procure a bulletproof, bomb-proof, death-proof, Al-Qaeda-proof, Al-Shabaab-proof monstrosity? Don't get me wrong though, I believe it's of utmost importance to ensure that our president is safe, and now that he is, we should all feel safe too. In fact, the president felt so safe on this particular day that he thought it was safe to say things he hadn't planned on saying.
Serikali yangu kwa muda wa miezi mitano sasa tumekuwa tukijipanga na sisi tuko tayari kuongea.
The position of Jubilee is that engagement that is welcome is engagement on social issues.
And the moral of the story is, stick to your script, Mr. President. Stick to your script. Remember what happened the last time you didn't stick to your script?
Oh, what a fortune.
The thing is, if you don't stick to your script, you're bound to confuse very many people.
Mimi niko tayari. Wakuje tuketi.
Anawana na Kalonzo wapige simu waje kwa chai State House. Unaona mimi mtu akwenda kwa chai.
Baba wa ukweli ni yule anaenda safari, anarudi na nini? Na mkate. Lakini huwezi kutembea kule alafu unakuja unaanza kusema nataka dialogue nikatiwe mkate nusu. Hakuna.
And speaking of confusion, here's something confusing. 500,000 shillings to airlift speeches. Guess they must have been pretty heavy on rhetoric. Meanwhile,
further down we see
they say Luo is not a tribe or language. It is a calling. And if you're called to be Luo, you need to know how to respond. Introducing the Luo alphabet. In this alphabet, you do not get your usual A to Z. You get characters that look similar to the Egyptian hieroglyphs. After all, the Luo are believed to have come from Egypt, right?
Started from the bottom, now we're here. Started from the bottom, now my whole team. Yeah, started from the bottom, now we're here. Started from the bottom, now the whole team here. Started from the bottom, now we're here.
But what would this week be without a word from the newly empowered Nelson?
Kama muko na agenda museme. You say it.
We really don't have an agenda, sir. We're just a happy lot. But is there any other advice you'd like to offer us?
We have a duty. We have a duty. And we have a duty to protect our heritage.
Now, before we wind up, I'd like to take this golden opportunity to congratulate our police force for doing a splendid job. A few weeks ago, they announced the ban on tinted windows, and I went on record to say that this was a very good move if we were to ever catch the Anglo-leasing thieves. Well, here are the results of that ban. After peeping through hundreds of thousands of windows, they managed to get this guy. His name is Deepak Kamani, who is somehow involved in the multi-billion shilling scam. Yeah, take that, Deepak. Well, that's all for tonight. See you next Sunday.
Start it.
Zombie on the track.
Always enlightening. Make sure you catch up with Mock the Week again next week. I just want to read one tweet before we get into a break for the sports news. And this is from Carrier John. The discussion between a TNA and a URP member of parliament on Checkpoint is quite telling of the relationship between the coalition partners. Keep your comments coming in. We will sample them. And of course, do stay tuned because Nick Mudimba will be here with all the day's sports news, including the amount of chicken that has been consumed today. Kiria.
And of course, congratulations to AFC Leopards now. Moving on, despite the high level of adrenaline, the Mashemeji Derby fans from both sides came out full swing to support their teams in what was expected to be an entertaining match. The ticketing section had a rough time with fans getting to the stadium as early as 9 a.m. As a virtue, patience was not part of both fans, as at the point really forced themselves in the stadium after being kept for long in the ticketing queue. Some decided to jump over the gates after the match started. The security situation was on another level, and those trying to go against the laid-down organization were dealt with. Song and dances, as usual, characterized the start of the match with over 40,000 fans filling the National Stadium. The loss against FC Leopards meant Brewers Tusker on the Gor Mahia's tails after the 3-0 win over Mathare United.
All right, we've come to the end of our bulletin tonight. I just want to read one last tweet on Checkpoint. Censored tweets, that's your Twitter handle. You say, it's a clear sign that Jubilee is imploding from the inside. And truth is generally seen, not heard. That is from David Onjili Emohaya. But on to matters that happened today.
Absolutely.
It was a good cloy.
A sigh of relief. I understand your position, but yes. A sigh of relief for FC Leopards. And of course, tomorrow in the morning, Morning Express join Joshua Kemboi, joined by Patrick Correa, and discussing more about the events of the day. Congratulations after a very long time.
It so happens, by the way, I prepared chicken for dinner tonight. Kwanza kienyeji.
Frozen?
No. I cooked and slaughtered myself in anticipation.
All right. Congratulations. All right. Have a good night. My name is Nicholas Mudimba.
And I'm Yvonne Okora. Have a great night. We'll see you again soon.